At last the dragon, also known as the date. Preparing for this episode, I had an abundance of sources. The episode itself, the DVD commentary by Moffat and Sawalha, the screenplay, and Bill Moffat's novelisation. On top of that, two episode guides, one by Jim Sangster, bundled in with the DVD, and another by Adrian Petford, which is free online at yoyo.org. This is an ambitious episode for several reasons. Aside flashbacks, it all takes place outside the newsroom, and it's one of only two episodes to feature only three of the main cast, Spike, Lynda, and Colin, as with Series 4's Love and War, though that episode won't access any supporting cast who really keep this one buoyant. And we get our first appearance of Sullivan the Goldfish. The opening scenes utilise the economy of fast cuts, which Peter Davis's theme notes guide us through melodically. Lynda is reading Catcher in the Rye, a favourite among adolescents with its notions of angst and alienation. Spike flips through the picture book, its blend of text and image stimulating the learning centres of the brain. Editor Chris Brisdale makes the most of transition in her homes to flashbacks and back. The only bit with newsroom stuff. I clearly recall watching page one sometime after this episode and surprised that the dragon line and scene was not a retcon. Its representation here is all context and makes it newly iconic. In fact, for technical reasons, this is a slightly different take of episode one, barely noticeable. The novel highlights how, in the scene from page one, Lynda's approach throws Spike off guard, a cloudiness of mind which is an important beat reprised in the final scene. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot the phone call. Setup, story, twist. The script is 47 pages in length and all of it shows up on screen. It even has a few extra improvs by Dexter. It tells us scenes prior to the Campbell mansion were all shot on a Wednesday night. Well, that's why you watch these videos. My work here is done. The opening altercations are vintage Spike and Lynda. For the press gang completists and height fetishists among you, presently Dexter is 5'5" and Julia is 5'3". Around the hijinks of lips, holes, and blind old ladies, there's quiet little touches. Spike doesn't reply as to if he wants coffee. Lynda goes straight to making some, rather than deal with Spike's flaws.
Well, stop making me nervous.
Feels like easy comedy coin, but underlines the subtext. That is that Mr. Thompson's date is also his first cocktail party. And Dragon is also reprising the theme of Lynda's abominable dress sense. A lot of fun, but I can't help but think of the dark undercurrent of receding sanity post the David Jefford incident.
I do not grovel. When have I ever grovelled?
The guy from The Guardian, you were all over him.
Rubbish.
Lynda, you laughed and smiled more times in that one conversation with him than in the whole time that I've known you. In fact, it was twice.
I do not grovel.
Lynda, I had to wipe your chin every time you looked at him.
Well, that certainly paid off. And this reminds us Lynda is a young up-and-comer and is also a nod to the press already noticing Press Gang was no ordinary kids show.
And all I'm trying to say is that it's important to me. So just don't get up to any crazy stuff.
And at 11 o'clock, we've got more cartoon crazy stuff.
The commentary largely spends this part of it talking about Sawalha's audition. Sandra Hasty still has a tape somewhere. Sawalha says in this cab ride, she and Dexter shared a private kiss. Their on-screen chemistry draws from workshopping those fire and ice attitudes. All the same, this poor cabbie. Watching this with this essay's video editor Andree Wood of Ditto Multimedia, seeing it for the first time, he remarked, "I adore Dexter as a director, but I do wish we saw more of his acting." And he gets plenty to shine with here. Lots of moments where their raucous, comedic, fiery bickering is punctuated by raw sincerity and beautiful moments of vulnerability.
Just for the record, you're probably the last person in the world I'd ever let down. I thought you would have known that by now.
The script conveys the transitions well. When this scene was shot, it was bucketing it down with rain. The Gazette's owner, Cameron Campbell, is seriously rich. The novel tells us it came from inheritance money, the family making their money from the shipping business. It's a sumptuous location, no doubt. With top use of acting hiccups, Sawalha gives us a very on-edge, neurotic Lynda, played for drama as much as laughs. And Colin in the limo certainly adds to those. In uncredited roles, a flock of ducks. Director Bob Spears really fought Moffat for the edit take where they were in the centre of the scene. They do make the scene feel bulked out more than what's on the page.
Everyone thinks they're such sweet little things. Ducks, ducks. Quack, 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 quack. Soft downy feathers and nice little wings. Ducks, ducks. Quack, 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 quack. But there's a poison I'd like to administer. You think they're cuddly, but I think they're sinister. Ducks, ducks. Quack, 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 quack.
It's quite amusing and maybe a surprise that we're past 10 minutes in when Lynda first sets foot inside the house, or as the novel refers to it as Campbell's Castle. It's unhindered opulence, high society, classical music which sounds as if it's being performed live.
6-year social, Sarah's birthday party, Kevin's birthday party, Julie's birthday party, the end-of-term disco, the midterm disco, start-of-term disco, the disco.
What about them?
Well, you weren't there. I think I understand why.
It's interesting how in 1 or 2 years at Norbridge High, Spike is so much more socially active than Lynda.
Hello.
Sophie and Laura.
Asmodeus, Satanas, Lucifer.
For my money, this episode is peak Sophie and Laura, Rosie Marcel and Claire Herndon respectively. We've had them established as creepy no-gooders, but here they take on a new macabre tone. They quickly rack up a list of new illicit activities so maniacally impressive they deserve an entry on the Villains Wiki. I imagine Sullivan didn't punish them by sticking them on the paper, only because he was in ongoing talks with Her Majesty's Prison Services. And Sophie and Laura's crimes don't end there. Later in the novel, when Lynda has left Spike alone, they accost him in the hallway. They had him trapped. Laura announced that they had created this particular range of pastry delights on a theme. Sophie whipped off the cover. Human anatomy, Sophie declared. Spike was mesmerised by the grisly presentation, which grew grislier still as the items were identified. See, eyeball vol au vents, Sophie continued. Biscuit ears, Laura said with a wide grin of genuine pride. How about a finger sandwich? There was something sinister in Sophie's simple invitation. Spike studied the diminutive pair and asked, was anyone ever really cruel to you two when you were very young? It seemed the only explanation. No, they chorused. Spike considered their denial and said very earnestly, it's not too late. This episode first aired on 22nd of February 1990. The UK Food and Safety Act entered law on 29th of June 1990, 4 months and a week later. Was it rushed through Parliament in response? Is there a connection? In the novel, Sullivan defends Sophie and Laura by referring to Spike and Lynda's troubled past. We could call upon the mirror image subtext here. One couple each has similarities in name. Spike and Sophie begin with S, end with E. Lynda and Laura begin with an L and end with A. Sullivan's bringing up Lynda's past at school refers to a troubling underground paper. Viewers of Series 5's Friendly Fire may recall this as Damn magazine, but the novel referred to a school paper called Norbridge Days. Until Lynda took it over, it was held in low regard, nicknamed Norbridge Days. We're told controversy occurred with the arrival of a drama teacher, Mrs. Esme Stanners. She let it be known to all of her great success staging productions, A backstory partly exaggerated, but mostly concocted in outright fraud. Lynda fired the starting pistol in exposing Mrs. Stanners by attending the preview of the school play and savaging it in some meticulous detail, assassinating her, the novel puts it, several times over. The effect was discontent among the staff, and as the play ran through its first week in Norbridge at proper theatres, a growing realisation that Lynda's warnings were correct, and it was draining money from school funds because it was such a sham. All this leaving Winters and Sullivan with no choice but to pull it. I wonder if Bill Moffat is there taking a shot at the transitory nature of children's TV programming and its churning out of substandard products. Well, if he wasn't, I am. Come on, spats, anyone? And the whole incident put Lynda firmly in the centre in Sullivan's consideration for editor of the Junior Gazette. Spike asks Sullivan if Lynda is mad. Novel and script frame his reply as if it were obvious. Nick Stringer plays a punchline out. In the commentary, Moffat appears to be serious when he says this vase came with the house and was really quite expensive. They spent 3 days shooting inside the house. Steven Moffat was in a room upstairs with his typewriter and mentions being able to hear the whole performance.
Where's Lynda? Oh, mentally speaking, she's on the third moon off Jupiter.
Well, Lucy Benjamin did audition for the role of Lynda. When Spike is talking to Sullivan, there's an orange dress in shot, but Lynda's in the toilet. It later turns out to be Mrs. Campbell, so maybe a bad choice by wardrobe or editor Chris Risdale, or a signifier, a portent. How that works.
Hey, nice car. I've seen shorter traffic jams. Colin? Who?
That one didn't age quite so well.
On the commentary
May
on
all
St.
your
Paul Reynolds,
camels be
Sawalha
bounty.
humorously says, I thought that was Mike Reed then. Over the last season and a half, we've been told that Colin is a coward and feels threatened around Spike. Here, he retaliates. A mug, in the language of the grifter, is someone taken in by an offer too good to be true. Colin isn't only acting from self-defence of personal health and business. His nose for profit scooped Lynda's prospect some time ago. He believes in helping Spike sincerely, coinciding with protecting his own interests. It's that act of truth-telling which makes sense and hits home. And Bill Moffat highlights this moment for the chapter title. The script doesn't call for blackface. However, the Sangster episode guide states Colin's final pitch to Spike mentioned blackface, but was cut and replaced with blonde wig. There's no mention of this in the script that I have, which appears to be the final shooting version. Over the course of the episode, Sawalha's hair changes a bit. Just add rain. Moffat's work where it has a strong flow often moves at a fast pace. This can be a detriment too. In Press Gang, Dexter's accent sometimes obscures the quality of the line. Broadly though, the need or want to get on to the next line means we miss a nuance that's right here. So the novel and script do help. Sawalha drama
You know, when I was
gives
14, I
rawness
pretended
to
I was
her
ill at my own
chorus.
birthday party.
She's weeping a
Kenny
tune
came
about
up to my
social
room and
life,
played chess
all
all
the
evening.
areas where Spike is quite competent. Lynda mentions Kenny,
Yeah, good old Kenny.
which for Spike serves as not so much a moral compass, but a moral Bermuda Triangle. With Lynda's anxieties pushing it to the limit, what would Kenny do, really? He could conceivably let her off the hook. But if Kenny was tagging along, would Lynda even get so panic-stricken? They're a team, capable of bouncing off one another effectively to achieve their aims. It's yet another set of questions chipping away at Spike. Maybe he suspects he's one more pressure in the equation.
Good old Spike.
He doesn't bring the ease Kenny can, no matter how he tries. And he's out of his depth in the upper class gathering. More than Lynda is. So there's a lot going on in these few seconds. For this essay, I watched the episode on a big screen, allowing me to properly eyeball the butler's comic expressions. The actor is uncredited, passing by on a bit of fun because his real name is Waiter Henry. That's a great name. Waiter Henry. Newspaper owner Robert Mayer is played by John Ronan. Gravitas in his voice, deep, slow, measured, and big grey hair. He conveys power. Ronan was a West End and Shakespearean actor, on stage, in cinema, first appearing on television in 1960. So what you might expect for a regular fixture there. Play for today, Zed Cars, Dixon of Dock Green, all the way through to The Avengers, Juliet Bravo, and Howard's Way. Get this. In Howard's Way, he played Councillor Steven Moffat. No relation.
He's not one of your relations.
He was a regular in Granada TV series Strangers between 1978 and 1982 as Detective Sergeant David Singer. He worked with Albert Finney, George Peppard, Roger Moore, Tony Curtis, Diana Rigg, Glenda Jackson, and starred in the Emmy-nominated film A War of Children. You know, common variety press gang casting. He was a playwright and screenwriter himself, and in later years he taught drama and acting at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and Illinois Central College. And strangest of all, Ronan's appearance is dwarfed by casting director extraordinaire Liz England in recruiting Peter Burton as Cameron Campbell. We talked about the paper's owner a lot when looking at Love in the Junior Gazette, often referred to and only seen here with one spoken line.
Cameron, where are the car keys?
They're in the bars in the hall.
Born in Bromley, Kent on April 4th, 1921, Peter Ray Burton was active from 1950 to 1989 when he participated in various iconic British films and television programmes. He played Major Boothroyd in the first James Bond film, Dr. No, way back in 1962. There followed two uncredited reappearances in two other James Bond films, first as an RAF officer in Thunderball, 1965, and later as a secret agent in the satirical Casino Royale, 1967. He would play several uncredited roles in his career, Lawrence of Arabia as Sheikh in Arab Council, which I imagine is not where he met Colin. He'd also pop up in a role as Junior Minister, Minister Frederick's aide in Stanley Kubrick's controversial A Clockwork Orange. There were other appearances in cult media too, The Avengers, UFO, The Saint, and The Professionals. According to IMDb, this was Peter Burton's final acting role before his death on November 27th, 1989, at the age of 68. He died 4 months before this episode aired. Series 4 opens with Cameron Campbell's funeral, and I can't help wonder if this choice was made in honour of Burton, all of which means nothing to the mercies of Sophie and Laura.
Asmodeus, Satanas, Lucifer.
And Spike learns to find victory in those everyday things. This segues into a delightful little piece of closure and a nice touch in the reference to Spike losing his fiver bet to Sullivan. Sawalha absolutely goes full on with sincerity here as well. There's a raw honesty, a glint, a light in their eyes. When these two characters drop their gladiatorial facades and breathe long enough to just enjoy each other's company, well, it makes for some magical television. And Lynda has finally found a way to terrify Spike.
You're shaking.
That's quite a length of kiss. And we get the first appearance of a magic trick the writer will use on an international icon years later.
I'll see you when I see you.
When's that?
There's no voiceover in the closing credits, instead a more upbeat rendition of Peter Davis's main theme. Because sometimes we get a happy ending.
Yo!
Sitcoms with will they won't they elements generally struggle after the consummation, but Press Gang wonderfully sees a coupling through the honeymoon period, through the turbulence, and to the problems at the relationship's core. I'll discuss how it goes about that after a short break. This is my last Press Gang essay until autumn 2025. You'll get it earlier, of course, if you buy a £1 Patreon subscription. I price low because this is a time of great economic inequality and I want everyone to have access. But also I need money, so give me some. I don't want to have to wear a blonde wig. Patreon is a one-stop shop for debuting everything I do. Comics, novels, poems. I'm underselling it, really. I'd like to say a big shout out to my patrons whose names are on screen now, particularly Art Kondratiev, Arslan Hyder Ali, Ian Lawther, Ben Stone, Alan Ryle, and Andrew Gallagher. Be sure to check out my channel next week. I'm debuting a funny short film all about Caption, the UK's weirdest, most unique comics art convention, and I'll be covering the new Doctor Who in a style halfway between a review series and a comedy sketch show. I'd like to give a big shout out to Andrew Wood of Ditto Multimedia, my assistant video editor and co-producer on this block of Press Gang reviews. He's available for hire now with specialities in many areas of animation and 3D modelling. So be sure to like, subscribe and leave a review and have a little chat. I'll see you soon for more Thoughts in Motion.